All right. So one of the main aims of the data fabric is to make it as easy as possible for somebody who's a data analyst or broadly a data user to search for data sets amongst various data platforms, and then as easily as possible get those data sets and ideally start to use them. So that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about in this video, primarily centered around Data Hub, which is one of the technologies we use. So I'm going to go ahead and log in to Data Fabric. All right, we come to the central dashboard, which is it's more of an admin level view. You notice I logged in as an admin. So a data user is primarily going to interact with the data fabric through the Data Hub and Superset UIs. So in another video, we talked about Superset and the visualizations you can do. I'm going to talk a little bit here about searching for data and getting that data into a sort of user-specific format. So when I go to Data Hub, presented with Google-like search bar, I can also see various categorizations of the different things that are in this data catalog. So we've got data sets, we've got dashboards and charts from Superset. We've got several different platforms here, where platforms are, data lakes like UDL or Envision, as well as things like Superset, which are visualization technologies. So I'm going to go to our data sets. I'm going to look for UDL data sets. And so these are all data sets that we've pulled in from UDL. We automatically go out, we scrape using a UDL service account to get metadata about every data set that is available. So we log in and we can see for each data set a complete schema along with descriptions. So these are all generated from what data or what UDL exposes to us. We get any documentation for the data set. And we can also add things like tags or glossary terms where things might not be obvious, like acronyms, and also ownership of certain data sets. So if I'm looking for data sets as a data analyst, I can go sort of manually through the data sets, sort of browsing it. I can also search for different keywords. So Data Hub does an intelligent search for not just the name of the data set, but also anything in the description, any parameters, schemas. So I can search for something like track, and you'll see the results we get back are not just results from UDL. We also get results from another data catalog that we're hosting in the data fabric called MDR. So we're seeing some results from it. I'm going to choose the track data set from UDL. And so I can see anything that I'm interested in for the schema. And then if I really am interested in using it, I want to be able to get the data from UDL. The data fabric by default does not import all of the data sets into it, right? That sort of goes against the sort of ethos of data fabric. We want to do this lazily. We want to import data sets when they're requested instead of essentially becoming another data lake, having to store multiple data lakes worth of information. So these buttons on the right-hand side control the access of a user. That's sort of a two-step process. The first step is adding the data set into Data Fabric. So you click this button, it pops up a toaster that says, we're importing this. Behind the scenes, what happens is the Data Fabric checks the data set, first off to see if it's already being streamed into our internal Kafka. If it's not, we spin up an application with a UDL service account, go out to UDL and start streaming that data in. So that's the first step of this. What that does is that generates or that streams a raw topic of UDL data in. But one of the other value adds of Data Fabric is that you can also down select data, filter data based on user attributes. And that's what the second button here does. So accessing the data set. it takes that UDL topic that we are putting in our internal Kafka, and it forwards it to a user accessible topic. And along the way, if we have attributes in our ICAM solution, which we're currently using Keycloak, we can filter on those. So from a data user's perspective, this is all they do. They search for the data set, they do 2 clicks, and they will get a topic of data that they can consume, they can visualize in superset, or they can hook up to an app or a model. Behind the scenes, I'm going to sign into Keycloak, which is, again, the way we're managing identities in the data fabric right now. Though that is fungible, we're designing the data fabric to not depend on any one authentication provider. As long as it adheres to OIDC, we can pretty easily support it. So you'll notice if I go back to Data Hub, I'm logged in as the Data Hub user. If I want to view all the users, I can see there's an entry in Keycloak for that. And there's a permitted classifications attribute that they have, which is currently the list of U and CUI. So I've set the data fabric up to filter topics from like the raw UDL topics based on these permitted classifications. So if it's anything outside of that, it's not going to be put into the user accessible topic. Going into Control Center, which is the sort of Kafka backend. This is the way we can see what's in all of the Kafka topics. I can go and I see that there are these 2 topics down at the bottom. The first one is UDL track, which is the raw data set coming straight from UDL. It's not filtered at all. It's everything coming out of UDL. You'll notice we've got this classification marking field in the JSON. That's what I'm going to be filtering on. So because this is UDL test data, all the classifications are U. So we'll assume that everything is going to be coming into the forwarded topic, which is the user ID and then the data set name. So if we go here, we should see that messages coming in from UDL are going to be propagated onto the user specific topic. Now, just to simulate, let's say we have a message coming in from UDL and it's got classification marking something else. So this is going to come into the raw UDL topic and it's not going to get propagated out to the user topic because we're filtering it out. So we're essentially doing row level obfuscation or row level removal of data sets. So this allows us to, based on a user's permissions and RBAC or ABAC, we can filter down the data that they see. Now, this is all abstracted away from the user, right? To the user, all they're doing is they're going into Data Hub, they're searching for data sets, and then they're getting those data sets and using them. But that's just a lot of the work that the data fabric does behind the scenes.